What's that like?
What's going on, everyone? It's your old pal Johnny here from the What's That Like podcast, and here we are for episode 6 of our new season here in 2024, and proud to bring you a guest that I think you're going to really enjoy here on the WTL network as we bring to you my friend, Becca G. Becca, you have your own podcast. It's great to have you here. It's Podcasters Uniting here this week on What WTL. Tell everyone the name of your podcast and what you do.
My podcast is called Hey, What Are You Doing? It's a new thing for me. I started it I joke and I say I took a nap and I drank a Diet Coke and I woke up and I was like, I need to start a podcast.
Because why not?
Exactly. It was New Year's Eve or day, and I said, I'm just going to record the trailer. I'm going to put it out there so that I can't take it back. And yeah, it's been every week since, and it's been a lot of fun so far interviewing people.
Yeah, you're probably 10 episodes, 11 episodes in?
Yeah, I think I just posted my 11th episode this past Monday. So your episode will be number 12.
Oof. Nice.
Yes.
All right.
I'm trying to decide where seasons start and stop. I don't really know how to do that yet, or if I just go forever.
When you take a break longer than a couple of months, then that's a season. That's the way I always looked at it. That's why I'm in season 4 after a 4-year break. But before we get way deep into your podcast, which we will, tell everyone really who Becca is.
Well, I am born and raised in Mount Olive, which is how I know John. I now I actually just bought my first house in Glen Carbon. So I'm being an adult, a real life adult. Although the hail hit the day after I bought my house.
Oof.
And I called my dad and I was like, I need an adult's opinion on what I should do because I don't know what to do. I am the head of a social media and email department at a marketing agency in St. Louis. So if anyone out there listening needs social media or email marketing, please let me know. I've been doing cold calls for us lately, and I would like to stop doing that. I have a cat and a dog who I'm obsessed with. You can see my dog's bed in the background. Annie and Stanley. I adopted Annie in 2018, the beginning of 2018. And then I adopted Stanley in the middle of 2021. I had to get through my little sister's wedding before I adopted a cat. And then I got Stanley, and everyone's always like, they're twins, they match. I'm like, yes, I did that on purpose. Went to adopt a cat. I adopted Stanley. I adopted an orange and white cat on purpose, and he just fits perfectly with me and Annie. So, and I decided to start a podcast. I was bored, and it's been fun so far. So that's Becca in a nutshell.
Yeah. You mentioned your little sister, and so that's Amy. You said Amy's. Yeah. It was Amy's wedding, who I think spent as much time at my house growing up as she did at your house. Yeah. There were times where I think Amy knew where everything was in our house. She especially knew where the snack drawer was. I will say that. But no, she's like another like offshoot daughter from me. Mm-hmm. Her and Allison are 2 days apart. Actually, your mom, Sherry, was very pregnant when my wife, Corey, we were having Allison. And I remember calling the hospital and I got your mom on the phone and said, I think her water broke. I don't know what to do. She says, get up here. And your mom to this day will say, I hung up, I went to the bathroom, and you were in the hallway. So we've been connected since that moment. That was fun. Yeah. So let's talk about your family. I know your family, but which means I know the fun you all have. I think your family has more fun than any family I've ever seen.
We try.
Tell me about why that is. What's going on there that makes Becca's family so special?
Yeah. Well, we can start with the immediate family, and I like to say we're all weirdly close. You have we have now two guys who have entered into our family, Amy's husband Nathan and Carrie's fiance JD. And you have to really just like be okay with how close us three sisters are and my mom. And we're in a group text. We text every single day, all day long. I think I call my mom 10 times a day still at 32 years old. And then sometimes I'll call my mom and she'll not answer and she'll call me back and she'll be like, sorry, I was on the phone with Amy. And it's just like a constant. We're very, very close. And we're also close with my dad, but my dad has a flip phone and he doesn't text. So he doesn't get our group text. But I think it starts with my grandma Barb is my mom's mom, and we have a very large family on my mom's side. The Robinsons, everyone knows of the Robinsons, if you know my mom at all. And it starts with my grandma Barb, who really instilled family in all of us and really made sure that we were all close. We did this thing called Cousins Camp every year in Texas that not all of them, a lot of the cousins would come from throughout the United States and hang out in Texas for a week or two. And she just made sure that we all got together often. So we all are close. I'm very close with my extended cousins. I like to call them my brothers and sisters. They older brothers and sisters, or they like to think they are. And so that just trickled down then to my immediate family. And me and my sisters are weirdly close. Like I said, we weren't growing up. I will say, if you know me from Mount Olive, I was not the nicest to my little sisters. But I've grown out of that, obviously. I love them very much. We hang out often. Amy actually just recently moved home from Wisconsin, and I don't think she put the video on like social media or anything, but they videoed them telling us. So they kept the secret from like July when they started looking to almost November when they closed on their house. They didn't tell us at all that they were doing this. And they videoed telling us, and if you know me, I don't cry. It's very hard to make me cry. Immediate tears out of my eyes. I was so excited that they were going to be home. They're 30 minutes away. So we hang out often. Weird. Any little thing you can think of to hang out, as a reason, we are hanging out. The other night, I think it was me closing my house, Nathan's birthday, and my dad winning at some bowling tournament that that we were celebrating. So it's a lot of fun.
And you've right officially grown by two more men.
We have. So Amy and Nathan got married in 2021. It was supposed to be 2020, but we had to push it. And then that was a really fun wedding. You were there.
Oh yeah. I had a lot of fun. I hurt the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. I did not have as much fun as some other people did from the bar. I did take one shot to get me through the speech. Otherwise, I don't drink. I'm actually, it's been over 1 year now since I have had any alcohol.
Well, good for you. That's awesome.
Thank you. My friend who I used to go get margaritas with, she moved away March 9th, and that was the last day that I had any alcohol. And I was like, you're not here anymore, so I can't drink. And so, yeah, Amy got married, and then Amy and Nathan have had two babies since they've been married, Sullivan and Watson. They are the light of our entire family's lives. Sullivan is the funniest little kid ever and also so smart. Watson is a baby, so he has no personality right now, but I'm sure it'll be great.
Yeah.
And then Carrie just got engaged for her 30th birthday in December of last year. And so we've been in wedding mode now. We've gone to 3 bridal shows, all of us. So that's another thing. We're so close that we're all going to bridal shows together. We've gone to 4 dress places to find the dress. We drove to Indianapolis one day to go dress shopping. And if you can imagine, John, on the way home, it's like 9 p.m., middle of nowhere, Indiana. Like when I say middle, it was the gas station we ended up pulling over was like from Halloween. And we got a flat tire. Me, Sherry, Carrie, and Amy. And none of us know what to do. And Jay was bowling, so he didn't answer. And we were like 100 miles from Carrie's house. Thankfully, we sat in the parking lot, and Carrie was like, surely some dad in some truck is going to pull up sooner than later, and he will help us. And sure enough, some dad in some truck pulled up, and him and the gas station attendant helped, came out, changed our tire, put the donut on, aired it up for us. And we drove 100 miles on that donut at 50 miles an hour on the interstate. It was...
You can't beat a story like that.
Oh, it was something, because I drove the car, and I like to not drive 50 miles an hour on the interstate.
It's dangerous to go that slow.
It is. We would put our hazards on if we saw like a semi coming up behind us real fast, just to be like, hey, we're here and we're going slow. But we made it a little later than we anticipated. And Carrie has found her dress.
That's great.
So,
and you got a great story.
Yes.
That's really what it's about. And, yes. Becca, I'll say this. Your family took a picture, I think it was at Carrie's graduation. Yeah. And it would have been the only other family's photo I would have hung in my house. And I'll put it in here. I'll find it and I'll put it on the screen for all of you to see. Okay. But it was perfect because I think you were making a face, Amy's making a face, your mom and Sherry are looking at each other, and Jay's just smiling, looking at the camera. It was perfect. Yeah. It was
not planned. But John loved it so much that I think we had to redo it at Amy's graduation. I think you had us redo it at Amy's graduation.
It wasn't as good though. Nothing is as good as the original. But your dad Jay, he's a few years older than me, but I will say he taught me how to be a sports dad as I got older. And my friend Don, now the fire chief here in Mount Olive, he said it first. He's like, Jay always had it right. All the rest of us would sit by the fence and scream and holler, and Jay'd be out there next to the outfielders, just in his lawn chair, happy as he could be. And I'd be like, nope, that's the way to do it. So as my son Adam grew up, I was like, no, I'm way less of a crazy sports dad and more of a Jay. That's what I turned into.
He would come over and talk to us in between. Well, not me so much. I wasn't the best athlete in the world, so there was no helping me. But Carrie and Amy, he would come talk to during innings or quarters or whatever you call them, and would give them tips. But yeah, he sat on his own. He was like, I do not need to be yelling or screaming. He was like, I'll just give you my thoughts afterwards. And yeah, my parents were some good parents growing up. They attended every sporting event that we were in. Even me, who was not an athlete, I, for some reason, thought I could do the 300 hurdles all 4 years of high school. And when I tell you, I fell every single race. Every race. I came in last and I fell every time, and I still did it.
You got up.
There are YouTube videos out there that Jared put on YouTube of me running and falling. But my parents were still there. Cheering me on every time.
And you learn your lesson. You fall down, you get up, and here you are. You're doing great. Yeah. So I love your family. That's pretty obvious, right? So it's great to talk to you. And you're probably the grenadier I know the least. So this is fun for me as I get to go deeper and get to learn Becca G a little bit more. Yeah. So let's talk about really, you said you're in your early 30s. You're head of an email and social media arm of a company. You're doing a lot of things with that. One day you decided to start a podcast. What are there people you were listening to, podcasts you were listening to, you think? Because this is the way it happened for me. It's I was listening for stuff. I'm going, I could do that. Is that a similar thing for you?
Kind of, a little bit, yeah. So I am your typical basic white female, and I listen to true crime podcasts like nobody's business. I wake up in the morning and a podcast is turned on, and a podcast doesn't get turned off until I shut my eyeballs at night. And it is 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a true crime podcast. So I knew that market was very oversaturated. I also, because I consume so much of it, I was like, I don't need to be researching and doing my own true crime podcast. There's a different spin on it out there for every kind of interest. But I also started recently last year listening to Dax Shepard's podcast, Armchair Expert. And while they have a bunch of different kinds of shows on that podcast, the main one is they have so it's Dax Shepard and then his friend Monica, and they co-host together. They have experts in the field or celebrities. So on Mondays they have celebrities, on Thursdays they have experts. And I was like, well, this is really cool and interesting. Like, I'm a very, very, very big into pop culture, celebrity life, all of that. I kind of have to be with running social media department, but I was like, this is really cool and interesting, but I'm not getting much out of it because these people either have millions of dollars and, they're talking about traveling around the world, or they're such experts in their fields that they're like top tier, top of their game. Like, yeah, I can learn from them, but some of the stuff they're saying, I'm like, I just have no idea.
You can learn, but can't relate, is what you're saying.
Right. So I thought, why not start something similar, but interviewing people, everyday people who everyone can relate to. Everyone has a story. I recently had my cousin on, and she was like, I'm not interesting. Like, why? I don't know why you're having me on. I'm like, but you are, because there is some stuff in your life that other people can relate to and will find interesting. Like, while I don't relate to everyone that I've had on my podcast, there are people out there who can find a part of it that they can relate to. And I've actually had a lot of people reach out to me and be like, this is so cool listening to everyday people talk about things. And so that's kind of where it came from. Also, I don't know celebrities, so it's not like I can interview them anyway.
Yeah.
But it kind of came from Armchair Expert, but then, Midwest everyday people kind of idea, which has been a lot of fun. I don't have deep conversations with my friends ever. We talk about Taylor Swift often, but like that's about the extent. So it's been nice to like sit down and have these kinds of conversations and ask these kinds of questions that I don't normally talk to them about. So it's been fun in that aspect as well. I feel like I'm getting to know my friends on a whole new level, and then letting other people get to know them too. I had a friend call me yesterday, and she was like, we just got, caught up on your podcast, and your cousin Shelby's is one of the most interesting I've ever listened to.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And it's like someone who wouldn't know Shelby. And so it was kind of cool that like people from my life are getting to listen to other people from my life.
Becca, I want to give you a hug, right? Because I think everything you just said is everything that I've tried to do on What's That Like, right? And so, hey, what are you doing? What's that like? But our story is very, very similar here. I listened to the one with Shelby, and it was very powerful. And I'm getting a little teary-eyed as I talk about it, because I remember all the stuff you guys were talking about that she has to deal with. So, yeah, go listen to all of Becca's podcasts. Let's start with that. But you've discovered kind of the secret of what I discovered when I started doing this. When I first started, it was, can I have some experts in different things, or that they do strange things like a tornado chaser or a UFO hunter or whatever it might be. But what I ended up learning is I got to know the people in a much deeper way than I ever would have through straight up normal life. And that is really the secret of this thing. So when I say, why do I do it? That's why I do it. Because it's more rewarding I'm doing it for me. And if people get interest out of that, then that's fun. And then you've already won. It doesn't matter about clicks and through time and how long people have stayed on show, whatever. That's the most important part of this whole thing. So yes, you hit the reason. That's the reason to do this. And I think that's just so cool. So you've got a show called Hey, What Are You Doing? Is that what you would just say when you would call someone, and that's the genesis of what this is?
Yeah, it's been a running joke in my life for quite a few years, because every time I call someone, when they answer, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And so my family always makes fun of me. And now if I call them and don't say it, my mom will be like, "Excuse me, what do you say to me?" And I'm like, okay. Um, but yeah, so it kind of stemmed from I've been wanting to do a podcast for a couple of years now. I've bounced some ideas around. I've asked some friends if they like wanted to co-host something together, but nothing ever came from those conversations. And so that night that I took a nap and drank a Diet Coke, I was like, what do I always say to people? Like, what do I want to interview people about? And I was like, I always call people and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? So the premise of my podcast is similar to yours is what are you doing right now? And what got you to what you're doing right now? Like your current phase of life, your current job, your current, what if you have kids, what your kids are up to right now. So it's more like a right now type of story rather than like a give me since you were born type of story.
Right.
Unless that has to do with what they're doing right now. But it's kind of like it's like a phone conversation. Like I'm just calling you and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Because when I tell you it's what I say every single time I call someone, I didn't realize I was doing it until one time I think Amy pointed it out, or my mom, they like made a joke about it. And I was like, well, I have to keep going now, obviously.
Well, that's the heart, right?
Mm.
And you've got a heart. And very much for me too, the through line of what I do is I try to have the most interesting people or places or subjects in Central Illinois. I want to keep it small. I try to as much as I can, whatever, shop local, eat local, those types of things. So I want to shine the light on those folks that have an effect in a smaller way that aren't some celebrity, right? So we're very similar. I think we just formed a network, Becca.
There you go. Down on the podcasting network.
That's right. So when I think about what you've been doing, really, I mean, what's your plan? I mean, do you have a plan? Are you making it up as you go?
Yeah, I never started the podcast as like in 1 year, I'm going to be making all this money from this podcast, because as we are both aware, the podcast world industry in general is very oversaturated. It is very difficult to like really bust through. You have to essentially have a name for yourself before you even start it now on social media or something. So that's not the goal. I don't think it will ever be the goal. If something comes of it, wonderful, but I'm not trying. The plan is to just keep doing this for as long as I enjoy it. I don't want it to ever become something where I'm like, oh, I have to like interview someone. If I'm not having fun with it, I'll take a couple weeks off. If something comes up, I'll take a couple weeks off. But I want it to just be something that is, as we all know, the world is very difficult to navigate these days. And so I try to find the joy in the small things and anything I can. And so this has been bringing me joy. And so until it stops bringing me joy, I'm just going to keep interviewing. I have a whole list of people that haven't reached out to any of them really. I started it with people that I knew I could just be like, you're coming over and you're being interviewed. And they were like, great. My mom not being one of them.
Well, Sherry, get your act together. Get on. You're the heart of most of what goes on here. So get on this show and tell people about it. Right.
And she's retiring in a couple weeks.
Oh, wow.
Like, that would be so interesting to talk. Like while my friends wouldn't relate to it, I know her friends listen to it. And so they would relate to it.
100%.
Come on, come talk about retiring. Today is actually her last weekend day she will ever work in her life.
That is so great. I'm so happy. We're recording this actually on the morning of St. Patrick's Day. So this is a Sunday. So when you said it's the weekend, that is so awesome. I'm so happy for her.
Yeah, I'm excited for her. She made sure she was retired before the eclipse comes so that she can go wherever she needs to and not have to worry about working.
I can't wait. Yeah.
She's excited. She's making us t-shirts. I'm not going because I have to work, but
Becca, you have to go. Take a day. I saw the
you
one
have
in
to,
2017. I'll never see another one. It was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. It is
aren't you
so
gonna
awesome.
go? Are you gonna go find this next one?
Well, it's only an hour from where we live. So, yes, I
Mhm.
will head southeast and go
Mhm.
somewhere. I'm just praying for good weather. And
Yeah.
as I'm just, yeah, I've got the day set aside to do something,
Mhm.
but I don't know exactly what yet. But it's not like you have to go someplace specific. You just got to go where you're in the zone
Yeah.
and look up. It'll be great.
Yeah. I unfortunately have to work in the office on Mondays, so I don't get to like just go drive, but it'll
You're
be
sick.
fine. Yeah.
But
My mom is making t-shirts for me and all the girls I work, my whole team. She's making Eclipse t-shirts. So anyway, um, there, I just, what I want to achieve with the show is just having fun and bringing joy to other people's lives. Um, I love when my friends text me and they're like, I just listened to your newest episode and this is what I liked from it. Or like on Mondays, like I said, I work in the office and I'll walk into my team members and they'll all have their headphones in and they'll be listening to the show when I walk in, which is sometimes awkward. They're like, we've already talked to you today.
yeah,
Like, so
yeah.
have you?
So I really, when you think about what you're doing, and you obviously know your numbers because you look at
Mhm.
those numbers. But if whether,
Mhm.
and I will tell you what I look at them, and then I got to tell myself the numbers don't matter as
Mhm.
much as when those people call you or see you,
Mhm.
or I've had people on the street that
Mhm.
I have no idea who they are. And they're like, "Oh, hey, yeah, you're that. I love your show." And you're like, "That's why I do it.
Yeah.
It's not because of, oh, I got, as you said, I'm not going to make any money at this. I used to have a sponsor. I don't
Mhm.
have one currently. Would I
Mhm.
welcome the right sponsor that I feel is a good partner and brand fit and everything? I would,
Mhm.
right? But to your point of not, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. Right
Mhm.
now, you're not beholden to anybody, which is a
Right.
great thing. You're not
Right.
worried about your content and is it something that fits, or do you have to get an episode out because somebody paid you $50 or something like that?
Mhm.
You don't have to
Mhm.
do that. So I'm going to tell you, it's not as much about the money as what you feel in
Mhm.
here and the joy it brings you. And I think that's cool.
Mhm.
And there's so many, like, my sister-in-law, right? She'll be happy she got another shout out when I say this, because, hey, Ashley, you'll listen. But we saw her last week. She goes, "Oh, that one episode, I had no idea that
Mhm.
that happened to you, or that was a part of your life. I've
Mhm.
known her since she was 6, you know." So but it's the things that people learn and the deep conversations that you have that make it so special. So let's do this. We
Okay.
won't do a whole, "Hey, what are you doing?" show,
Mhm.
but we'll turn the table real quickly for a few minutes.
Okay.
What would a "Hey, what are you doing" sound like if you were interviewing me, which, spoiler alert, I'll be there next week. But give
Yeah.
folks on this channel a taste of what your channel is.
Yeah. So I like to start off with 3 fun questions, is what I call them, kind of to get people, you know, in the mood, I guess you would say, for
Mm-hmm.
podcasting. Everyone I've interviewed, no one has ever been on a podcast. They all come over to my house. I've only done one virtual right now. And so I have this whole setup with 2 of these. I have 3 mics actually, if I interview 2 people. And so I'll start with some fun questions like, if you could eat one food for the rest of your life with no negative health effects, what would it be? Or what movie character would you be? What's your favorite book right now? Just to kind of get them talking. And then we get into more like, describe your current phase of life in 3 words. Is there any misconceptions with what you do personally or professionally? Are there any um, goals you're working towards? I like to give people the option to talk about personal or professional because, as we've said, if you listen to any of my other episodes, work doesn't always define who we are. It shouldn't define who we are. It can be a part of you, but it doesn't need to define your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to let people decide what they want to talk about. Um, and so, we just kind of get into what makes you you right now and what's going on in your life right now. If you've experienced anything fun or exciting recently, that's always a good one. Some people are like, no, I have nothing funny that's happened to me. I'm like,
There has to be.
you have 7 children. There's got to be
Yeah.
something that has happened to you.
Mhm.
And by 7, I mean 2, but that seems like 7 to me. And so just, kind of talking about what keeps them inspired every day, just getting into who they are right now. And so, yeah, like John said, I get to interview him later. And if you want to hear his answers to those questions and more,
You have to tune in.
yeah.
Hey, what are you doing? I've got good answers. I've been thinking about this.
Yes.
Like I'll spoiler alert one. When you asked about your favorite, you ask it. We'll do it for real here. Ask me about my food.
Okay. If you had to only eat one food for the rest of your life with no negative health effects, what would it be?
So I would generally say pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a place in Waterloo. It's far enough away that I can't go there all the time. But it's called Hopskeller. They've got wood-fired pizza, and it's a microbrew. And it's great, right? No matter what pizza I've ever had, it's great. That's the answer I will give. The answer I wanted to give, and I thought this is just tuned right to you, Becca, is I wanted to say the blooming onion or whatever it's called at Texas Roadhouse. And I was going to say, because it's been served to me as a customer there by all 3 Grenadier sisters.
Yes. Texas Roadhouse is part of the Grenadier sister legacy.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one though, actually. I think it was the Cactus Blossom. I think that's what it's called.
There you go.
I think it's the Bloomin' Onion at Outback, maybe.
The other place.
That other one.
Yeah, we're not talking about them.
Yeah, but that's a good one. When I tell you the Cactus Blossom was like, sometimes they would mess them up or they'd end up too small, and then the servers would get them in the back. And just like that one bite of a Cactus Blossom on a 12-hour shift when you haven't eaten yet was like the best thing I've ever eaten. It was probably sitting there for like 45 minutes. It was cold. It was, half coated in the batter.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, you were the best at Texas Road, because we would go and my son Adam would never want to go, but you guys would always bring extra rolls for us to take home just for him. But no, that's so, yeah, tune in to Hey, What Are You Doing? You'll find that wherever you get your podcasts, right? And we'll have a conversation that we'll record later, and you'll get both these conversations starting tomorrow? On Monday? Yeah.
Hopefully tomorrow for me, if I can get it edited in time.
This week.
Yes. I'm also, like I mentioned, just bought a house. So I have decided to take on painting the tiniest of tiny closets. When I tell you, John, it is the smallest closet. And I've never painted anything in my life. I think when I moved home a long time ago, I wanted to paint the bedroom I moved into white, and I started painting it with my mom, and she was just like, get out, just stop trying to paint this. So I thought I could paint this it's just a closet, and I'm just painting it one color. Like it's fine if I mess up because it's monochrome. It took me, I think I started at like 1:00 and I didn't stop until 10 p.m. last night, and it's still not done. And my mom
what are you painting with? Like a roller, or are you brushing this?
Both. The paint I bought said it was 1 coat paint, and it is not. Unless I'm doing it wrong. It's taken 3 coats.
Well, that depends on what you're painting over, right?
White.
So and white is going to show. See, this is the home improvement section of the What's That Like podcast. You're getting it all here this week, right? So now I'm dadding up here on Becca, but yeah, it shouldn't take that long. Cut the corners in, slap it in there, and roll it a few times, and you're done. And it's a closet, Becca. You're going to cover it all with clothes anyway.
I know. Well, my plan is to have take the door off the hinges and have it be like a cute little mud room type of thing. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I don't want to ever paint an actual room ever in my life.
So you mentioned that, like you said, you moved home to your room. We just did that with Allison's room here at our house last week, and took down the pink, or I shouldn't say took down the pink, painted over the pink wall and the blue wall and the border that had been, painted over, and made it look like a real adult room again. So, yeah. It's a nice spare
Yeah.
bedroom.
Oh, the colors that we chose as girls growing up to paint our bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
I had a Pepto-Bismol pink bedroom.
We must have shared the same paint color
Yeah.
because that's the way it was.
Yeah.
So, Becca, let's kind of, as I always say, I got to land the plane at some point, or we could just keep doing this forever. But,
Yeah.
what do you find now that you're a podcaster? We've understood the joy you get from it. We've understood why you did it. We understand the thing that makes it fun for you. Let's talk about what makes it tough. If somebody were listening to this, I'd encourage you, if you want to start a podcast, you can do it. Anyone can, right? It's not that hard. But what do you find the toughest? What are the toughest things you have to deal with?
Well, to start with, figuring it out. Like, where do I record? What kind of equipment do I need? How do I edit? I wouldn't call myself a content creator, but I guess I have been a content creator since social media came about. I jumped into social media the second we were able to. I can remember being in Miss Adden's class, or not Miss Adden. It might have been middle school. That was the red computer classroom, I think. And signing up for Facebook, and like all of my classmates like watching me sign up for Facebook. And so like I started a blog in 2010, and I've had many iterations of that blog since. I tried to be a vlogger at one point. I've tried my hand in everything. And so finally I was like, let's just do podcasting. So I kind of had an idea of how to edit, but editing audio is a lot different than editing like a 20-second video clip of yourself for TikTok. And so I didn't know where to put my audio either. So figuring out the platforms, what works best for what I'm trying to accomplish. Like I said, the equipment, do I get an arm? I started out with just this microphone, which is this, but then like I figured out that I needed this little thing that goes on it, and then that I needed an arm so that when I'm interviewing people, I'm not like sitting here moving this around, because then you can hear all of that. So I would say the hardest part is just getting it all set up. You don't need, though, the most expensive equipment out there. This microphone was $30 from Amazon. So like you probably don't even need that really. But just, figuring out where to begin. And then I will say, if you do want to start a podcast, Spotify now has a platform. I think it used to be called Archer, maybe. But I think they might have bought it, and they make it so easy to like host your podcast. And if you sign up and put your RSS feed in there for any other like Apple or iHeart or any of those platforms, they then push it out to all of those platforms for you. So like I just upload it to Spotify, and then it's on everything.
Then it goes everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. They make it really, really easy in that aspect. And then I started recording in GarageBand, and I edited my episode and then the first episode with my friend in it. And I was like, this is going to be like, this is hours of editing. Like, I can't do this.
Right.
And so I found a platform called Descript. And I know that AI is scary, but it does do some good, because I just tell it to take out all the all of the filler words, and it just pops it all out for me, so I don't have to worry about that. And it transcribes it all, so as I'm listening while I'm editing, I can just like highlight an entire paragraph if I need to, click the delete button, and it's gone.
Yeah.
It has made my life so much easier. So if you are out there and you're thinking of starting a podcast, I mean, I'm not an expert by any means, but I do have a little bit of knowledge now. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, or John would probably answer your questions. I'm sure. I can't speak for John. But yeah, just the getting started.
You can certainly speak for me. And that's the way I used to do it by hand, so to speak, I would say, I used a program called Audacity instead of GarageBand, because I'm PC based, not Mac based. But I would spend a lot of time removing the uhs and somebody taps the microphone or whatever, just, noises like that. Since I've gone video, I'm back into a nightmare zone. So, the good part about, say, this conversation today, it's fairly, you're not an ummer. You're doing well. I don't have to cut out a lot of stuff. So I probably stutter more than I want to over certain words, but I can live with that. Yeah. So the editing is the toughest part. It's tough to just kind of record, let it go and be done. You do want to clean it up a little bit. How you said you have a list of guests. You don't have to tell us who they are. That's for you to reveal. But is that a challenge for you, getting people on?
It hasn't been yet. So far, I've had anyone I've asked has been like, yeah. And I actually have had some people request to be on it, which has also been mind blowing to me that people like it so much that they're like, can you please let me on your podcast? And I'm like, okay, sure. I have asked one person and she has told me no. We've already discussed that. My mother refuses. She, during my little sister Carrie's episode, so I also do rapid fire questions at the end, and they're not questions that I send to people. I don't know what the questions are. And one of Carrie's rapid fire questions was, how would your parents describe you in one word? So we were like, let's just call mom and dad and see what they would say. My dad was like, I don't want to be on this podcast. Like, don't put me on. He barely answered the question. I kept him in. And then my mom, she was like, delete me. They both acted like they were live, like on the radio. And I was like, A, that's not how this works. But B, I'm not taking you out. Like, you have no choice. So that might be the only time that Sherry will be on the podcast is that. But yeah, I mean, I have a really good friend who, like I mentioned, lives in Florida now, and she quit her corporate job and she is living her best life down there. So I want to get her on. I have some people like Miss Adden, who I mentioned. I want to have her on. Renee, I talked to Renee Marburger and she was like, you have to interview Ed. And I was like, done. If Ed wants to come on, Ed can come on the podcast.
That would be great.
Yeah.
If you know Ed. You're right.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So I have some fun people that I would like to interview. Life has been slightly chaotic lately with the whole house thing and a 2-week close, which I didn't realize. I now know why they do 30 to 45 day closes, because there's a lot that happens for it and it happened very quickly. So I have to I had a schedule going. I'm a very organized person, but in the last couple of weeks, that schedule has gone out the window. Had you not reached out to me, I wouldn't have had an episode coming up. So I'm so glad you did.
Well, it's okay to take a break. Number one, this is what I've learned. It's okay to take a break. In terms of guests, have some rules about not who you will let on and who you won't, but why if someone's requesting to come on, understand the why, right? Now, if it's just a friend of yours and it's okay. But like, I made a rule right away. I'm not doing politics. I'm not doing religion. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I had people that were running for state senate back in the day want to come on and talk about it. I'm like, not doing that, not going to have it. So it's okay to say no to people. Right? Yeah. If you don't know what their agenda is going to be. And then at the end of the day, you're the one that pushes publish or not. Right, so that's the good news. But it's fun to have you in this space, Becca. I am so proud of you that you jumped in with me. I thought when I started in 2017, it would be like, I thought I'd start a movement. Yeah. But I kind of
wish I would have jumped on that movement in 2017.
Yeah. But it's fun to have you in this space. It's fun to have you be a part of it. You've got a brother here that if you need help with ideas or how do you handle this or whatever, I've probably been through it or got an answer for you at some point. Okay. So don't ever hesitate to reach out as we do this. And I'm glad to have a sister in this here local kind of podcast movement as well, getting the message of small town people. out
We're just
because
as interesting.
we're just as interesting, right? That's really the big part of it, and it's fun. And you won't believe all the people that actually do listen to you. That's the fun thing, right?
Yeah, it's kind of been crazy to me, like, the people who will share it on Facebook too, who I mean, I know from growing up, but when people are, like, sharing it for me or commenting that they love it, I'm like, "This wow."
Yeah.
Like, people actually listen. This is kinda crazy to me that
Hmm.
you guys are that I don't talk to. Like, I get, like, my sister's listening to it, obviously they have to. But, like, people who don't have any ties to me, that don't have any reason to listen, that when they're like, "I love, this episode," I'm like, "Thank you." It really means a lot when people listen to it.
On the flip side, you're going to know people that share it that have never listened to it, and
Mhm.
then they'll ask you a conversation and they'll start talking about it. And you're like, you've never listened, but I'll smile. That's okay. Bless
Yeah,
your
my
heart,
mom.
as we
My
would
mom.
say.
I'm just kidding, she did listen to it. But my first episode that I put out just of myself, it was like 20 minutes, and she told me she had to be in the right headspace to listen to it, and she chose the right headspace time was coming home from the hospital with my father after he went to the ER for something. It was fine, he's fine. He was in the ER for like 5 seconds. But on
That's
his
the
way home,
headspace.
yeah, that was the headspace, and then she turns it on, and my dad, again, has a flip phone, doesn't text, doesn't even know how to work a computer. He's like, "What is this? I don't wanna listen to her," and I'm like, "Thank you."
That is the jayest thing you could have said. That is so
Yes,
funny.
yes,
So
so
so let's close out here, Becca. Where can everyone find your show?
it's "Hey, what are you doing" pod on all social media, and "Hey, what are you doing" wherever you listen to your podcast.
It's been fun to have you. I
Yeah,
end the
thank
show like this
you.
every time, Becca. That's Becca G. I'm John. Peace out.
Bye.